Have you ever paused for a second and realize you're constantly second guessing yourself? I know we all have. What to say, what to do, what you feel, even what you want. It's not just indecision, it's this subtle hesitation like your mind and your body are waiting for someone else to approve before you move. That's not anxiety. That's a nervous system that stopped trusting you. And if you've been praised your whole life for being responsible, selfless, strong, and well, then it makes sense. Because somewhere in all that approval, you learn that other people's needs were more reliable than your own. And today we're not talking about gut feelings. We're actually talking about what happens when you've spent years outsourcing your inner voice and how to start getting it back. This isn't loud. Not all women say, I don't trust myself. Most of them just hesitate. They over prepare, they triple check, they ask five people what they think before they make a move. Have you done that? They can give everyone else advice, but freeze when it's time to make their own decisions. I've been there. Sound familiar? Distrust doesn't show up as fear, it shows up as well, constant overthinking or apologizing before you speak or feeling like your first instinct is always wrong, needing confirmation before you act, or that split second of panic when someone disagrees with you. And the hardest part, it doesn't feel like a problem at first because it looks like being thoughtful. It looks like being prepared. It looks like being considerate, right? But deep down, it's self erasure. It's that quiet automatic reflex that says, let me make sure I'm not too much. Let me make sure I'm not wrong. Let me make sure I don't mess this up. And it runs everything until you name it. So, how did we get there? This isn't about confidence and is definitely not about self love. And they're good. This is about what happens to your nervous system when it's been trained to constantly consider everyone else needs before your own. Your body stops recognizing your preference as valid. Your instincts get muted. You learn to scan for what's expected before you check in with yourself. You don't lose self trust overnight, you lose it slowly. In every small moment, you override yourself to keep the peace, meet the deadlines, and avoid disappointing someone. That's not insecurity. That's over functioning on autopilot. And the more you do it, the more your system starts to treat other people's comfort as your safety. So, of course, you second guess yourself, right? Of course, you overthink. Your system doesn't know what it means to be with yourself yet. This is the piece that no one talks about. Self trust is a nervous system pattern and it can be retrained, but not by forcing confidence, not by believing in yourself, and definitely not by pushing through. It starts by noticing when you abandon yourself so you can practice staying with yourself instead. You can't force trust, you rebuild it through pattern interruption. The first shift is this: stop making your instincts earn your attention. You don't need to explain why you feel what you feel. You don't need to make it make sense to anyone else but yourself. You just need to pause long enough to hear it. And that pause, that's the first signal to your nervous system that says, I'm not abandoning you this time. Because when you interrupt the auto response, when you stop the spiral of doubt, just a second, you make space for clarity to show up. From there, focus becomes possible, not on everything, just on what's yours. Not because you weighed all the options, but because you stopped outsourcing your worth. And once that clarity starts to take root, that's when flow comes in. Not because life gets easier, but because you're no longer spending your energy questioning yourself every step of the way. You're in alignment, which means you're in movement, which means you're leading without leaking. That's a t shirt. Listen, if you feel that you're always feeling scattered, if you're exhausted from second guessing, if your clarity feels just out of reach, it's not because you're broken. It's not because you're indecisive. It's because your system hasn't felt safe trusting you yet, but it can. You don't need to overhaul your life to start. You just need to pause long enough to hear your own voice before you check for anyone else's. And if this is tracking for you, I want to invite you to something deeper, and that's my free workshop. Stress isn't the problem, it's the symptom, is where we do this work at the root. This isn't about managing chaos. It's about finally recognizing where you lost yourself and choosing to become back without guilt. And the doors are open. So go ahead and save your spot. And now, if you're ready to lead without leaking, the link is in the show notes, and the QR code, if you just hold on a minute, is right here on the screen. Listen, if this hits you in that quiet place that you rarely talk about, drop in the comment, even if it's just to say, same, I see you. And until next time, take care. Bye bye.